So this big jar of Miracle Whip is back at it again. This time he has thrown his hat into the discussion when it comes to reparations, particularly because of what's going on in California right now. Now, we all know that Tucker Carlson is known to give some of the most worst, outlandish, controversial takes ever. But listen to what he has to say when it comes to reparations in California.
Simple, but there's a problem with it. How do you know who qualifies for reparations? It's been a long time. It's been more than 150 years since slavery. And Americans have made a lot of babies since then. And many of them are interracial. So at this point, there are plenty of white people in America who are descended from slaves. There are plenty of black people in America who are descended from slave owners. That's just true. So how do you know who qualifies for government reparations? Well, of course, there's only one way to find out, and it's old-fashioned Nazi race science. Nazi race science. So the state will have to certify the racial purity of its citizens in order to send them money. That's going to happen. Do we really want to go there? Do we really want to?
Okay, so you just heard it right there, and I might have to run it back a little bit because I'm not going to be able to retain everything that he just said in a vacuum like that because it was a bunch of BS to begin with. But you heard it, what he just said. He's now trying to find a claim as to how black people, specifically black Americans, would even qualify for it because of interracial mingling. And the way that he framed it, he's trying to make it seem like as if we didn't know where to go and try to find out our true history. It's takes like this, which is exactly why they don't want black people tracing their history, which is why all of our ability to really just go and do our research to trace our ancestry back more easily, like other groups are able to do, is right. This is the reasoning right here. They don't want us to find out where our ancestry, how far back it actually goes, because then it'll lead right to those responses. Now I'm gonna go back and, do the stop and go thing. I don't want to consider this to be a breakdown video, but it might end up turning into that for the simple fact that even though this was only a 40-second video clip, it was a few things he said in there that I just have to expound on.
Do that? Seems simple, but there's a problem with it. How do you know who qualifies for reparations? It's
lineage based. All you got to do is trace your history, genealogy, all of that. It might take some work, but if you're determined, you will find out. And see, the thing is, the way he frames that question is to make it seem so difficult and so out of reach that black people will not even attempt to do it, even if they do qualify. And that's what they're banking on. They're banking that we don't find the answers. Almost like we're in search of Carmen Sandiego or finding Waldo without a book.
A long time. It's been more than 150 years since slavery. And Americans have made a lot of babies since then. And many of them are interracial.
So he used the thing of it was 150 years ago and Americans have made a lot of babies since then, and many of them interracial, basically saying because of all the intermingling is going to make it even harder for you to trace your stuff back. Tucker Carlson must think we stupid. Like I said, lineage base. It doesn't matter how many children have come down the tree since chattel slavery. If you can trace it back just to that point, you good. It doesn't matter. See, Tucker Carlson takes something so minute or something so small and tries to make it something so grandiose to try to throw people off their game. That's the kind of person he is. He is a pseudo master manipulator. The same way that all these other groups can trace their history is the same thing we do, but they try to make it seem like when black people do it, it's some kind of phenomenon.
So at this point, there are plenty of white people in America who are descended from slaves. There are plenty of black people in America who are descended from slave owners. That's just true.
He said, at this point, there are plenty of white people in America who are descendants of slaves, and there are plenty of black people in America that are descendants of slave owners, and caps it off with, that's just true, aka I'm white and I say so. That was the most I'm white and I say so line that I can say that I've ever heard, without him having to actually say those words. I bet you that Tucker Carlson wishes he could trace his lineage back and see if he was the descendant of our ancestry. Many of them are upset because they can't. And see, he said that because, well, if white people can find and trace their lineage, excuse me, back to chattel slavery, then does that mean we're entitled to a check? Now, see, here's the thing. That's the trick bag right there. They don't want us to get it, but if they could find a way to weasel their way into getting something that is meant directly and specifically for us, they'll do it. It wouldn't be the first time. After all, these individuals signed the Dawes Roll and said that they were Indian and paid $5 to say that they were Indian. Imagine that, a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Indian, when the traditional Indian is dark-haired, dark skin, or more darker brown skin. So, and they did that to get resources. I'm willing to bet they're going to do the same thing here. Now, these individuals have never ever claimed black at any capacity in their life. Never in person, never in the workplace, never on a job application, none of that. But they'll now go trace back their lineage to see if they can find out if there is just a sliver of hope that they could be considered a quote unquote descendant of American chattel slavery. So they can say, oh, there's my great, 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 great whoever, great, great, grand whoever. Where's my check? I'm telling you, they're going to do that. And then on the flip side, when he says, oh, well, if black people are descendant of slave owners, then, you know, they can't get a check because their ancestors weren't slaves. Excuse me? See, that's the trick bag language that Tucker is using. That's why I call him a pseudo master manipulator. Pseudo because he's fake and phony. But master manipulator because he's been doing this for so long that he actually believes his own hype, and a lot of people fall for it. Not I. And I'm sure the people that are listening right now don't fall for it either.
So how do you know who qualifies for government reparations? Well, of course, there's only one way to find out, and it's old-fashioned Nazi race science. Nazi race science. So the state will have to certify the racial purity of its citizens in order to send them money.
I had to pause it right quick because I needed to know at least a sliver of what he was talking about when he said Nazi race science. From 1933 to 1945, Nazi Germany carried out a campaign to quote unquote cleanse German society of individuals viewed as biological threats to the nation's health. Enlisting the help of the physicians and medically trained geneticists, psychiatrists, and anthropologists, the Nazis developed the racial health policies that began with the mass sterilization of genetically diseased persons and ended with the near annihilation of European Jewry. With the patina of legitimacy provided by racial science experts, the Nazi regime carried out a program of approximately 400,000 forced sterilizations and over 275,000 euthanasia deaths that found its most radical manifestations in the deaths of millions of quote-unquote racial enemies in the Holocaust. This guy actually tried to implement what I just read to you and so much more into finding out how or where black people will qualify for reparations. And he said this is the only way we can do it. He said this on his program. I keep telling people they are the worst when it comes to doing comparisons.
That's going to happen. Do we really want to go there? Do we really want to do that? It seems simple, but there's a problem with it.
So notice how he ends it off. Do we really want to do that? Do we really want to go there? Look at what I just read. None of what he said about a Nazi race science should apply to this, to reparations. None of it. Those are two different, completely different spectrums right there. But he's talking about implementing that to try to determine who is a descendant of slaves or who is a foundational black American. He actually tried to pull that stunt. And you know what? No one's going to listen to him. I mean, people are going to listen to him, but it's absolutely, a ridiculous take. And I was looking through some of the comments of the particular video, and I saw the usual suspects, PC saying, I don't own slaves. I never owned slaves. I'm reading one comment right here. It says, my family has never owned slaves. I'm not riding high on the hog on money made from the backs of slaves. So we'll be goddamn before I ever amass a single penny because of slavery. Here's the thing. The money is coming from the government. That's where the money is coming from. And then he threw in the part about the, I'm not going to pay because, my taxes are paying. I just won't pay my taxes. Okay, don't pay your taxes and go to jail for tax evasion. And I heard that's a crime you don't want to get locked up for. And they'll still bleed you dry anyway, so you're stuck. So now you in jail and you've lost access to your freedom and your future finances, and they're still going to take money out of you. And the money that they take out of you for loss of paying of your taxes is going to come right back out as the form of reparations. So you're paying either way. I swear, PC. I was actually listening to GBS last night, and he said there's a reason why I have some kind of a lightness towards white people is because when they give takes like this and you can counter it, the way that their face scrounges up and their face turns red, that neck turns red. By the way, PC, in case you want to know why they called you a redneck, there you go right there. At least that's one of the reasons, but yeah. The takes that they give never ever line up, and they never make any type of sense, and they're so easy to debunk. This, which I just went over when it came to Tucker Carlson, was so easy to debunk because he's out there for some kind of form of entertainment. What type of entertainment, I'm not sure, and who he's entertaining, we pretty much already know, and into what crowd. But really what it all boils down to is people like Tucker Carlson and those who think like him, even the co-colonizing cohorts, is fear. They are scared to death that the conversation of reparations has gone this far, and it's still ongoing. It's gone mainstream. It's gone to the places where it's supposed to go. And remember what I keep telling y'all about domino effects. When one domino falls, the rest fall, and they just keep on falling until there's none left to fall. This right here, what's going on in California, is that first domino falling. And what they're scared of is that if this is successful, I'm gonna be optimistic. When this is successful, that other places are going to follow suit. And it's ironic it starts in California, considering California is a very large state. It takes up a good chunk of the West Coast. There's like 30 million people that live in that state, but like 12 or 13% of the population is black. Of that, I'm not sure how many would be considered to be FBA. They are scared when they hear that there's a possibility that they could pay out $223,000 per Foundation of Black American. That scares them. That may not sound like a lot, but if invested properly, that can definitely do and work wonders. Maybe possibly not in California because, California's expensive as hell. But go where you feel that your money can grow. And that fact that this is a possibility to be more than one payment. Hopefully it should be. This we're not doing a one-time payment for this thing. This is going to spill over. If they can continuously send money over to Ukraine just willingly, and they're sending billions over there, they can afford to give those California residents, the FBA California residents, $223,000 plus every month. Especially if they said the population there is as low as it is, who would qualify. But what they're scared of is the other millions of FBA around the establishment getting that same benefit. But they all sit up here and say that the establishment is getting bled dry. Oh, it's getting bled dry, but it's not by us, though. Not by a long shot. But as for Tucker Carlson and his so-called hot take, can both go straight to hell where it is a hot take.